Murder mysteries have always been fascinating to the public eye because no matter how disturbing and grotesque the acts may be, there's also curiosity. I think back to the numerous true crime docuseries I've seen, and I couldn't help but wonder why someone would do such a thing. What's the root cause for making someone act out like this? Is it something that naturally influenced this, or was it a case of their environments affecting them? This is what author Greta Boris loves exploring, and her debut to an almost true crime series is a great example of how this curiosity can create an eerie reading experience. The novel has two main perspectives, one being podcast host Molly Shore, and the other one real estate agent Gwen. Molly has dedicated her life to sharing true crime stories because she wants to pretty much spread awareness to her listeners. Telling people that if they aren't careful, they too can be affected through an event that's similar to the ones that she's sharing. What ends up happening is that as she keeps on getting different cases to talk about, she starts connecting a line between each of them, kind of getting the vibe that, wait a minute, all these cases are connected somehow. She then vows to solve the entire case herself, but before she does so, she wants to first explain where she's coming from, so she starts from when it all started, with Gwen. Gwen is a real estate agent that's pretty much trying to make a name for herself in the Orange County area. She learns about a posting for a house that's just nicely sitting on this cliff overlooking the beach, and she knows that, just looking at how gorgeous and how expensive this house is, if she sells it, she gets all the cred that she's looking for as, a pretty good real estate agent. There's just one catch though. There was a murder in the house. Okay, I guess right off the bat, it doesn't sound like anything creepy. My mom was a real estate agent, and she told me often that sometimes you would just have to sell a house where the previous owner died in it. It makes sense, they lived there. Would I live in a house that, had someone die in it? Absolutely not. But would I sell one? Yeah, that doesn't seem that hard, especially if the house is just gorgeous, and you can sell it if you just properly convey the features of the house. Who wouldn't want to live by, the beach and live on a nice cliffside with a beautiful view? It's everybody's dream. And, this is the cool thing that this novel does right off the bat, as we start learning more and more about the situation through Gwen's perspective. It asks the question, how many coincidences is enough for you to realize that, something's wrong and you just gotta get out of there? The question is common amongst most murder mystery content. Who hasn't seen a movie where someone is in a house alone and they start getting that creepy feeling that someone else might be there? But when you're watching these films though, it's easy to backseat the situation and be like, how could you not see the signs? The killer's right behind you. But with a book, you don't get that much context. In this novel, you read about how Gwen addresses these small things that happen to her in the house. Objects are misplaced, but maybe that was just the guy fixing the house up, he had to move a couple things. There's an indent on the bed, but maybe someone sat there during an open house. It smells bad, and there's later a dead animal, but these things just happen, right? Right? What makes this book even more creepy is that we also get the perspective of the killer as well. We start getting the intentions behind the same things Gwen takes as just mere coincidences. We even start learning more about his backstory, his trauma, and his motive for wanting to make sure that the only thing alive in that house is him. The question of nature versus nurture comes up, and this is something that I talked to Greta about in a recent interview with her.
In fact, I really go into the whole genetic aspect of psychopathy in the book, which one is it? In the Manor, in that one. And well, I don't, in case you read it, I don't want to spoil it, but I do go into it a lot more there. So there definitely is a genetic component, and like we all know that, like the typical psychopath, they just really don't, they're missing an empathy chip, so they just have a really hard time. If you feel pain, they don't go, oh, that poor person, they feel pain. They're like, they feel pain. It doesn't register. They don't have the ability to experience it vicariously through somebody else. Now, one of the men that did a lot of research on psychopathy, who I followed, is actually a doctor. And in the process of the research, he inadvertently, because he had all of his staff and all these different people fill out, all these forms and all this questionnaires and stuff to discover, how does this personality trait fit with their genetic makeup. And he found this one, and of course they had nobody's names on it, And so he found this one that was like, this one is like, wow, this person Q has the genetic makeup and the personality traits and this and that. Who is this person? And it was him, the doctor who was doing the thing. And he went home and he was talking to his wife about it. And she was like, what, yeah, you didn't know that about yourself? And he's like, no. But he wasn't evil. He didn't kill people, nothing. But then he did some, that history, like what's it called, where you go back and look at your family tree? Yeah, like his genealogy, right? And he discovered that he had all these like terrible people in his family history, like Old West bank robbers and killers and all that. And he was like, wow. I mean, he really did come from a line of people who did those things. But one of the things he discovered, he was raised in a very healthy home with parents who loved him, and he had a lot of good boundaries and discipline and all that. So he channeled that into being a little bit ruthless in his career, like he wasn't super good mentor. He didn't really care about that, but he got so much research done and so much accomplished. And he found out he wasn't super likable. Like most of his staff didn't really like him, and most of his students didn't like him. And his wife said she didn't even like him that much. So I mean, but he wasn't a bad person. He definitely didn't kill anybody. So all that back to your question, nature versus nurture. I do think that it's both. It's not either or.
And I think that's interesting. You know, the idea that the answer to this question that is always usually framed in a black or white context is actually gray. You know, the idea that it's actually based off of the perspective of the individual and what they've gone through. I mean, sure, their genetic makeup could be consistent with the other bad people that, you know, have also been analyzed throughout history. But if you take Greta's example, you know, into consideration, that doctor did not end up like that at all just because his genetic makeup was similar to the other people in his family tree. You know, someone who was raised with the idea that hurting people was wrong, and this leads to logic and morality overriding where, you know, natural instinct, I guess, would take place. But I mean, there's also situations where you can argue that a quote-unquote good person could be in a bad environment, and that allows him to kind of see violent, you know, outcomes as a means to his survival. There's so many stories of that as well, I'm sure, if you just go back through like current times, or just understanding the idea that, you know, you could essentially be a good person, but if you are put in an environment where you have to be mean to make it out, of course survival instinct is going to kick in, and you might have to do things that you don't want to do in order to keep on going. While the premise for this debate is introduced in this novel in such a crazy and creepy way, I do think it's a great takeaway to kind of understand how people rationalize the things that they do. I think this serves as a great motivating factor to ask the whys more than the whats as to, you know, someone's actions. In times where it may be hard to have that patience to understand someone's behavior, that may be the time to ensure that you do see everything as clearly as possible. This is an important concept because we've established institutions that have power to decide someone's fate in life based on conversations like these, leading to the philosophical question of what's considered just. I think books like these are powerful reminders to inform us that everything we see in front of us may not be enough in understanding why something occurs in life. I think this serves as great food for thought the next time you're watching a true crime docuseries or any creepy movie that you're watching in theaters and kind of has to do with this idea of, like, you know, why someone does the stuff that they do. And I think this also serves as a great example as to why crime fiction is just so unique and really interesting, you know, as a genre. I think the subgenre of crime fiction allows you to be human in asking these questions that may invoke, you know, emotions of empathy and care when looking at another person. Because yes, you're introduced to a story that's essentially off-putting, creepy, really scary, but you also come out with this beautiful insight as to wondering, you know, maybe some of the things that you thought were bizarre in life actually made sense to somebody because of where they came from and how they were raised to think. I think all of this is just another reason why, you know, we at BookBase enjoy reading the books that we do. And I want to thank you guys for not only coming to, you know, this YouTube channel and watching our videos and watching this video in particular that just came out, but also coming to the BookBase event that we had this past Sunday at the Barnes Noble in Huntington Beach. You guys have no idea how much this kind of stuff means to us, you know, as two people that are just trying to, you know, do a startup in a time where things are just really crazy, and it's an industry that, you know, it could be really closeted at times. And it really means a lot to know that, you know, as we're trying to kind of make a name for ourselves, we have the support of you guys, the fans. And that includes everyone that came to the event, but just anyone that just goes on this channel and checks out our videos, checks out our social media content. I want to let you guys know that it was such a great event this past weekend, and we cannot wait to create more experiences like that. But I just want to say again, thank you guys so much for watching this. I mean, if you love these types of videos, you guys know where to find us. Please check us out on our social media channels. And if you like these types of videos, you know, like, comment, and then also subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys will just see a lot more of this. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.